Well, what credit action is all about is encouraging people to think about how they're managing their money. Managing money is something that we all have to do. It's absolutely essential. And yet so many of us don't really know what we're doing when it comes to handling money because we're not taught it in school, and if we haven't really been sort of taught it by our parents, then it's difficult to know what to do because it's quite complicated often with financial products and understanding banks and loans and all this type of thing. So Credit Action is a charity. Our aim is just to help people to manage their money better. So hopefully that they can avoid a lot of the serious debt problems that we're seeing in the UK at the moment. We think the main sort of indicators that someone's really beginning to struggle with debt are firstly, if they're borrowing to pay off existing debts. That's a really key indicator. Secondly, if people are borrowing or are using credit to buy essential goods, so people are doing their food shop with their credit card because they don't have the cash available to do it, then that's obviously a key indicator that things are a problem. And also, most obviously, that people can't afford to pay off the debts they've already got. So if people have credit card debts or whatever it might be, and they can't pay them back, they can't even pay off the minimum on those, then that's a really clear indicator that people are getting into trouble. Well, people getting into debt problems, we think that the main factors behind that are sometimes people overspending. So sometimes we do just get people who are spending more money than they should be because they can get the credit. But probably the main problem is a change of circumstance. So either somebody loses a job, or there's a divorce, or somebody's ill and unable to work. It's these kind of things that tend to be what tips people over the edge. Well, I mean, the most common sort of requests we get a lot from people who are about to go to university who don't understand the way that student finance works. We get a lot from people who are worried about their money situation at the moment, so people that are racking up debt and this type of thing, who are worried about how they can sort of best cope with that situation. And we also get a lot of people who are just interested in basic money saving tips and these kind of things. So it's sort of quite broad, the range of things we get asked. If people want to stay in control and sort of curb the amount of debt they have, one of the things we'd advise is that they're making sure they're paying off at least the minimum on all their debts, and ideally paying off all their debts as they're due, otherwise the spiral starts because you end up getting extra charges and this type of thing. Other than that, it's really basic money management stuff. It's really basic budgeting, people making sure that they've got more money coming in every month than they've got going out. It sounds really simple, but so often as people we don't do that when we're managing our money. We're not really aware of what our financial situation is. So it's about keeping expenditure down, so saving money wherever possible, making sure there's some money saved up for an emergency. Like I just said, the biggest problem tends to be when there's a change of circumstance. And if people have a little bit of money saved up, then those change of circumstances can be mitigated a little bit. And then maximising income. So if you want to be able to spend that little bit more, then you're going to have to do something to earn it, whether that's renting out a spare room you might have in your house, taking on a bit of extra part-time work, whatever it might be. Well, we work in a number of different ways. First up, we have about 200 volunteers who are around the country, and they'll work doing courses, offering advice to people, maybe just raising awareness of where people can go for help. We also produce a range of guides that people can read. So we produce a guide for students, for example. We produce a guide aimed for people who are going into the armed forces, where there are some quite particular money management issues. And we also produce material so people who can sort of teachers, or for example people who work in prisons, we have a course for them. So we produce that kind of material. As well as that, we have a website, a money education website called moneybasics.co.uk, and people can log on there for completely free and completely independent advice. So we work in a number of different ways, however we can get to people, basically. Well, I mean, there are lots of places for people to go to get help if they are struggling with debt, and often people don't know about them. But there are places like the Citizens Advice Bureau, and people like National Debt Line or the Consumer Credit Counselling Service, who offer completely free help and advice. And what they can do often is work with the person who's struggling with debt and with the creditors to work out a payment plan that they can afford. If they're struggling to pay back their debts currently, then they can put them on what's called a debt management plan that they can afford. So that means maybe spacing the debts out over a longer period of time, occasionally getting interest frozen, these types of things. So there are lots of solutions that people can pursue. I think the key advice to people who are worried about their situation, whether it's debt or whether they're just worried about their financial situation generally, is to get advice on it. It's something we're not very good at doing in this country. We tend to be very shy about talking about our money. We'd much rather talk about our sex lives than we would talk about our bank accounts, for example. But if people want to stay in control of their money, then it's really important that they do sort of bite the bullet and seek advice on that. So you can talk to somebody who, completely confidentially. You can go to the Citizens Advice Bureau or the Consumer Credit Counselling Service, or come and speak to us at Credit Action, completely anonymously, and get free independent advice. But if you're worried, that's what you should do. Well, if people want to make sure that the people they're going to for debt advice are okay, are sound, if you like, then the best thing that they can do is make sure they're going to somebody who's completely independent, and most importantly, going to somebody who's free. There are lots of people out there who will offer debt advice and money advice, and will do debt management plans, and will charge people for it. And when you think about that, it just doesn't make any sense. If you're struggling with debt, the last thing you need is to be charged to help you get out of that debt. So if you go to somewhere that's not going to charge you and somewhere that's completely independent, so places like the Citizens Advice Bureau, the Consumer Credit Counselling Service, if you even go into your local sort of Citizens Advice Bureau, and they'll be able to tell you where local free independent money advisors are, or even just something as simple as a Google search on the internet should be able to show you stuff in your area. But yeah, those two things are key: people who are independent and people who don't charge you for that advice. Yeah, well, we are seeing a huge increase in debt in the UK at the moment, and we think that's because the economy's been built on borrowing. We're in a situation now where it's almost implausible for anybody to think about buying a house without taking out a mortgage. If you want to go to university now, you have to borrow money to do so. So the whole way our money system works is built on people getting into debt. Because credit, and so credit cards, store cards, loans, these kind of things are more freely available as well. It's just become part of our culture. We all borrow money. And that doesn't have to be a problem, although the amount of debt's going up very, very quickly. It doesn't have to be a problem. Most people cope absolutely fine with that. We think it's about 5–6% of people who get into serious difficulty managing that debt. So that's quite a small percentage. Although at the same time we have to remember that 5–6% of people is about 300,000 people a year, so it's quite large numbers. Yeah, so if people do want to get money advice, the kind of places they can go, they can come onto our website, which is www.creditaction.org.uk, or our money advice website, which is www.moneybasics.co.uk. Or if they're struggling with debt problems now, they can ring the Consumer Credit Counselling Service completely free of charge from start to finish on 0800 138 1111.